All right, welcome back to What It Costs. Today we are going to be taking apart this Stone Island jacket. This one's a little sad for me because it's my personal jacket, but it got damaged. I was building a fire in my backyard and I melted the sleeve, so I thought, what better cause than to donate it to the show. This Stone Island jacket. So this jacket, I think I paid around $800 for this. I bought this at the Stone Island store in Milan at least 4, maybe 5 years ago. So the jacket's held up quite well over time, and it's probably been my favorite jacket to wear. Let me introduce you to this garment. So this is their quilted micro yarn, and this is garment dyed. This is a insulated jacket, but it's fairly thin and lightweight insulation. Let me read the tag or what they say about this. So this is the garment dyed quilted micro yarn. This 10 denier calendar fabric. So denier is actually the size of the yarn itself. The lower the denier, the finer the yarn. So a 10 denier, it's something you'd be using for like hosiery or like nylon or stockings. It's very, very fine. And in this case, they woven it into this fabric made by nylon microfilaments. Again, that's the 10 denier. So with ripstop, they're actually gonna have little yarns throughout this. They're actually gonna kind of stop it from breaking apart. Microfilaments with ripstop construction undergoes invisible soft touch strengthening finish. So there's a garment finish or chemical treatment on the top. Fabric is quilted with a polyester padding substrate. Very fancy marketing terms here. What this is a polyester insulating sheet, and we'll take it apart and you'll actually see. And it's quilted because it comes in a sheet form. You have to quilt it to secure the insulation into the garment. Padding substrate optimized for garment dyeing. In terms of optimized for garment dyeing, the shell itself is going to be a polyamide, which is a nylon, and the insulation is going to be a polyester. In terms of optimized for garment dyeing, the dyes that work on polyester are different dyes than work on nylon. So you're able to garment dye this, and it's actually not going to dye the polyester insulation itself because it doesn't react with it. And then garment dye with special recipes with the addition of anti-drop agent. Stone Island calls their water repellent finish a anti-drop agent. What that is a chemical treatment on the top of the fabric, pretty much like a Scotch Guard, but industrial version. And it's called a DWR coating. That's a durable water resistant coating. And usually they're rated for up to like 30 washes, but that's what's gonna give it its water repellency. So that's actually how Stone Island describes the garment itself. So this one is made in Vietnam, and the shell is gonna be a nylon, and the insulation is going to be a polyester. We have the badge on the arm here. Take that off here. And on their jackets, they have what I call the badge garage almost, so you can actually put it on the inside. I guess it's so if you want to be a little more incognito or stealth with the jacket you're wearing, you can remove the badge and hide it on the inside, which is always a nice touch. I've definitely used this when traveling and walking through more sketchier areas. Put that on the inside. We have a elasticated binding on all of the sleeves, on the collar, as well as the edges of the zippered pockets. All the zippers use a YKK Vislon zipper, and in this case on the front zipper, it is a double-ended zipper. So for me, the reason why I kind of actually love this jacket is because it is very packable. So you can get it up to really small. So I really like how packable this jacket is, and this is why this is the jacket that I wore the most. It's a great transitional season jacket, and because the fabric itself already has a little bit of this crinkle texture to it, when you do pack it, it's not really as noticeable as something that is really kind of smooth. Overall, I've had this for years, and I'm quite satisfied with this garment. It's one of my favorite pieces that I had, but let's review how this is constructed. Again, this jacket has a nylon shell, and it's gonna be quilted with the insulation. This is where I happen to actually burn the jacket. Okay, if I open up here, you can actually see the insulation here, but I'll actually take this apart even better for you to get a better idea. Overall, again, this garment is now years old. I would say the construction on this garment is really spot on, and it's lasted me years, and I've had no issues in terms of durability of this jacket. In terms of the workmanship, it's pretty bang on. And obviously with most Stone Island items, you're gonna get the branded buttons over here on the arm, as well as on the inside. A nice touch that they do with their woven labels is that most woven labels are actually gonna have loose fibers or loose thread on the back. That can often get snagged, but I think they know with their jackets that you might be hanging this on a coat hook, so they back it with a secondary one so that you reduce the risk of it actually getting snagged, which is a really nice touch. So that's an overview in terms of the construction of this garment. But I think what's gonna be very interesting is I'm gonna take this apart so you can see all the different components that you need to make a jacket like this. And I'll also show you what alternative kind of insulations you can use. All right, this one's gonna hurt a little. Let's go with the neck label first. And we have our badge over here. Take apart our buttons here. I've taken off the zipper and the neck binding. You can actually see remnants of their garment dyeing process. So you'll see here, this is the bottom of the zipper. And if I turn this open, you can see the white of the nylon. This is where the dye did not penetrate the garment fully to give that color. But this would be the base fabric color itself. You can also see how the edges over here of the two sheets are finished and sewn together and then turned over for the zipper. And then what I'll do is actually I'll open this up here. Now that I've started taking apart the jacket, I want to show you the different layers. This is going to be the shell on the outside. This is their micro nylon yarn fabric with a little bit of ripstop. Ripstop just has filaments in there that are more durable than the rest. Hopefully stop a rip from continuing through the garment. And then we have the polyester sheet in here. So the insulation itself is going to be sandwiched between the inner shell and the outer shell. And you can actually get this in different thicknesses and different insulation values. This is going to be cut in the same pattern as the shell on the inside and sandwiched together to create that insulating jacket. Let me show you what other insulation options that you do have, just so you get an idea of how it's constructed. These are other insulating options. This one in this case is a synthetic fill. And then this one in this case is a down or feather fill. And when you're doing what's called loose fill like this, you would actually have the pockets you see here. And then you actually have a machine that you use to fill these up, almost like a Build-A-Bear, where they stuff it and then it fills up with the either synthetic or down fill. You'll actually have to have special fabrics here that prevent the feathers, if it's feather filled, from poking through the garment. You can also do this again with a synthetic, but obviously with a jacket like this, a puffer style, it's not going to be as packable as a sheet style insulation, just because you're going to be crushing the insulation, you're going to be flattening the down and the feathers if you're using down or feathers. But these do provide higher insulation values than typically a sheet fill. Ultimately, it's what you want. If you want a very good transitional jacket, something that is very lightweight, that you can wear, that is great in the fall and spring, you're probably going to go with this kind of insulation. If you want something that is for the dead of winter, you're definitely going to go with a puffer style. So let's continue the breakdown here. Here are all the components that you actually need to make this Stone Island jacket. We have our two arm sleeves here, elasticated binding on them. These are the panels on the arms. We have our two pocket bag panels here. We have our two side panels here, our collar panel. We have our front zipper. We have our two pocket zippers. This is the elasticated binding for the collar. We have our front left panel, as well as our front right panel. And then we have our back panel here. So you can see, to build a jacket is going to be a lot more complex than building a t-shirt or other kind of more simple garments. There's a lot more pattern pieces. However, when making a woven garment like this, great thing is when you're sewing a woven garment compared to a knit garment, you're not gonna have to deal with the fabric stretchiness and slinkiness. In terms of manufacturing, usually it's gonna be pretty on spec in terms of its manufacturing tolerances. All these quilted panels here, I know they kind of put it here as a garment dyed quilted micro yarn. The quilting, even though it's a nice design element, it's there to be functionally to hold down the insulation panels. In terms of the quilting itself, it's all going to be automated. You're gonna have your different layers, you're going to be sandwiching them down, and then a machine program is actually going to be doing all of the quilting elements, again, to hold down the insulation, because this itself is going to come in a sheet and it's actually going to come in a roll. You're going to roll that out, you're going to roll your fabric on the back side and on the front side, and then the quilting is going to hold it all together. Then you're going to end up with all these different components to sew together. There's actually more elements here where you can see the garment dye hasn't fully penetrated. You see over here, This is the pocket bag. And when you're garment dyeing something, it's great in terms of being able to get multiple colors and to get really special finishes because you don't have to dye 2,000 kilograms of fabric. You're able to dye the garment itself and you're able to play with a lot more colors. However, you can see here where there's multiple layers, you're not able to actually have the garment dye penetrate all the way through. However, in terms of this jacket, the garment dyeing process is still very good because you don't see the garment dye issues at the seam, and until you're actually going right through to a part that has multiple layers, you don't see the fact that it has been garment dyed. So you can see here, we have the outer shell material, then we have the interfacing material. This is gonna be like a blown sheet. This is basically pretty much the same as a face mask, and they're basically spinning and blowing polyester yarns, and then they're sandwiching them together to get that interfacing sheet, and then you have your insulation here. You can see here, these filaments are going to be crinkled and put together, and it's the air pockets that are created within this that gives you the insulation. And then we have another piece of interfacing, and then the shell material. Of course, we have the Stone Island badge. So when you're looking at a badge like this, you'd have to imagine Stone Island centralizing all of their trim components to very specific suppliers, and then they're gonna send it to the suppliers because the pattern for the embroidery here and the yarn colors, you're not going to want to give this to your supplier network and have them make their own, because then that's how counterfeits get out there. So they're gonna have one nominated trim supplier, or they might be even doing this in-house, and then they'll send these to the final manufacturer that's putting together this jacket. And I can guarantee you the amount of these sent to the factory have to match the amount that's leaving the factory. Otherwise, the factory's gonna get in trouble because you don't want counterfeits out there. And I'll show you the different layers to make this. So you can see here, for the badge itself, we have the backing material. This is a woven. You can tell it's woven because if I pull apart the yarns, they start coming loose. And then we have the felt material here. And then we just have the embroidery. Not much to this patch. Honestly, this patch probably costs 25, maybe 50 cents to make. Nothing too special for that. All right, so now that you've seen the full breakdown of this jacket, you know all the components to make this jacket. Let's talk about the manufacturing itself. So this is being made in Vietnam. Vietnam is a great place to manufacture a lot of technical wear in terms of taped and bond seams. Vietnam's really good at that. A lot of jackets Vietnam's really good at. The supplier who made this obviously knows what they're doing. This is a really high quality jacket. But I would say to make a jacket like this in Vietnam at the assumed volume Stone Island's making these at, it'd probably be around $30 to $35. Again, there's gonna be a range there because you don't know who the technical supplier is for the shell material. So there you have it. Let us know in the comments what other brands you want to see us take apart, and let us know whatever questions you have when it comes to making garments in terms of building a brand, marketing, or even manufacturing. What we're trying to do here is create a community where we can educate brands on how to make better quality garments, as well as educating consumers so you guys can make better quality decisions on the things that you're buying yourself. So that's it for now. This is what it costs. If you guys want to see more of these type of videos and more on what goes on behind the scenes in fashion, don't forget to subscribe and check out these videos.